Have you ever sat in a quiet room, the house around you humming with life, and wondered why you feel so different, so out of place? Have you ever felt, even for a moment, like the child your parents never imagined? Like you were a mistake they didn't know how to love, or a secret they wished had never existed? You may have seen it in their eyes, a flicker of disappointment, a sigh they tried to hide, a sharp word that stung more than they intended. And yet, you grew up learning to survive in the shadow of a love that felt conditional, learning that your worth had boundaries that you couldn't always name. The child your parents wish they never had is not a label of guilt. It is a story of experience, of perception, of survival. It is a reflection of unmet expectations, of unspoken disappointments, of hopes that collided with reality. It is a life shaped not just by who you are, but by the way the world, especially those who brought you into it, sees you. And in that story, there is pain, yes, but also resilience, depth, and an intricate understanding of the human heart. Consider the moments that shape this narrative. The birthdays when smiles were faint, the achievements that were met with a nod rather than celebration, the mistakes that were remembered long after you had forgiven yourself. Maybe you were a child who spoke too loudly, or too softly, or not at all. Perhaps you were curious, rebellious, or sensitive in ways that made your parents uncomfortable. Or maybe you simply existed in ways that they did not anticipate, and their love, while present, was tangled with disappointment, regret, or frustration. Psychologists explain this phenomenon not as a moral failing of the parents, but as a reflection of human limitation. Parenting is complex. Expectations are often unconscious, shaped by culture, upbringing, and unhealed wounds. When a child does not conform to the imagined mold, the parent's mind can respond with subtle rejection, irritation, or emotional distance. This does not mean the parent does not love the child. It means the love is entangled with unmet needs, fears, and projections. Imagine a child who is sensitive in a household that prizes toughness. Every tear, every moment of doubt is interpreted not as human emotion, but as weakness. The child learns quickly to hide their feelings, to perform a version of themselves that will be accepted, while the true self is tucked away, invisible, unacknowledged. Or imagine a child who questions everything, who challenges rules, who refuses to accept the world as it is. The parent, exhausted by a life of compromise and duty, may see defiance as ingratitude or rebellion, even when it is a spark of individuality. This is the quiet tragedy of the child your parents wish they never had, the clash between expectation and reality. But within that struggle lies profound psychological complexity. Studies in developmental psychology show that children who grow up feeling misunderstood, rejected, or emotionally unsafe often develop heightened empathy, resilience, and self-awareness. They learn to navigate emotional landscapes with subtlety. They become keen observers of human behavior, finely attuned to the moods, desires, and fears of those around them. And while the scars of emotional neglect are real, so too are the gifts it can impart. There is also the role of guilt and projection. Parents, like all humans, are imperfect. They carry their own unresolved pain, disappointments, and unfulfilled dreams. Sometimes a child becomes a mirror for those unmet desires or failures. The child's actions, temperament, or personality are interpreted through the lens of the parent's own history. If only you were different, they may think, without realizing that their words, their silence, their sighs are shaping the child's self-perception. And the child, in turn, internalizes this gaze, believing that their very existence is the problem. Yet it is crucial to understand that being the child your parents wish they never had is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of circumstance, of human limitation, of unmet understanding. It is a story of mismatch between two human beings, one flawed, one emerging, each struggling to navigate love and expectation. And acknowledging this truth is the first step toward a healing, toward reclaiming a sense of identity that is not contingent on another person's approval. The experience of being this child often manifests in subtle, persistent ways. You may carry a sense of shame, a belief that your emotions are too much or too little. You may doubt your choices, fearing that they will be judged or rejected. You may strive endlessly to prove your worth, to earn a love that was never fully unconditional. Or you may retreat inward, cultivating a private world where your true self is free to exist without scrutiny. These coping mechanisms are not weaknesses, they are strategies for survival. They are the mind's way of protecting a fragile heart from a world that did not always nurture it. And yet there is beauty in the child your parents wish they never had. There is depth, creativity, and perspective born from struggle. There is the ability to see beyond appearances, to sense unspoken emotions, to understand human complexity. The child who was misunderstood learns the power of empathy, of resilience, of inner strength. They learn to love themselves in ways that their parents could not teach, to create meaning in spaces where they once felt invisible. Psychologically, this process is what therapists call self-validation. It is the act of looking inward, recognizing your feelings, acknowledging your experiences, and giving yourself the acceptance that may have been withheld. It is a conscious reclaiming of your identity, free from the shadows of parental expectation. It is difficult work, often lifelong, but it is also transformative. And while it may seem paradoxical, the pain of being misunderstood by your parents can lead to profound self-awareness. You learn to ask questions others take for granted. You develop intuition, discernment, and a capacity for compassion that comes only from having felt the weight of rejection. You understand, in ways most never do, that love is not always perfect, and that human beings are rarely capable of offering unconditional acceptance without struggle. Consider the subtle ways this experience shapes life. Relationships may be fraught with hesitation, a fear of intimacy, or a hypervigilance toward criticism. Career choices may be influenced by a desire for approval, or by a rebellion against imposed expectations. Friendships may carry the echoes of parental rejection, a careful negotiation of trust and vulnerability. Yet, with awareness, these patterns can be transformed. Recognizing the origin of your fears allows you to make conscious choices, to cultivate relationships and pursuits that honor your authentic self rather than a narrative imposed upon you. It is also important to acknowledge the complexity of parental love. Even parents who struggle, who wish at times that circumstances were different, often love their children in the ways they know how. Love can coexist with frustration, disappointment, and imperfection. Understanding this duality is key to healing. You can recognize the limits of their love without diminishing your own worth. You can see their humanity while embracing your own, and there is liberation in this understanding. The child your parents wish they never had can step into adulthood, carrying not only scars but also wisdom, perspective, and a capacity for self-acceptance that is rare. You are no longer bound by the judgment of those who could not fully see you. You are free to cultivate a life that reflects your values, your passions, and your authentic essence. The journey is not easy. It requires courage to confront old wounds, to untangle the threads of guilt, shame, and self-doubt. It requires compassion for yourself, an acknowledgement that survival was your first accomplishment. It requires patience, as the echoes of childhood do not vanish overnight. But in the process, you begin to rewrite your story, transforming what once felt like rejection into a source of insight and strength. And perhaps the most profound realization of all is this: being the child your parents wish they never had does not define your future. It is a chapter in your story, not the whole book. You carry within you the capacity to create love, to foster understanding, to nurture yourself in ways that were missing. You carry the ability to break cycles of misunderstanding, to cultivate empathy where it once lacked, to build connections that honor authenticity rather than expectation. In the quiet moments when memories surface and emotions swell, remember this: your existence is not a mistake. Your presence matters, your feelings are valid. Your life, with all its complexity and imperfection, is worthy of recognition, respect, and love. And though your parents' expectations may have faltered, you have the power to meet your own, to cultivate a life that reflects a child they could not fully embrace, the person you were always meant to become. And so, the child your parents wish they never had stands not as a victim, but as a survivor. Not as someone broken, but as someone whole in ways that transcend circumstance. Not as a shadow of disappointment, but as a beacon of insight, resilience, and self-compassion. Your story is yours, unbound by the limitations of others. And in claiming it, you find freedom, understanding, and a depth of humanity that is rare, profound, and ultimately beautiful.